first question, talking about well, the coordination or discussion between the various parties. For water supplies department, our direct counterpart is actually the Guangdong Water Resource Authority. All right, and then, well, I think as set out in City Exchange report, there's a lot of other organizations. And in a way, basically, it's not just about the government-to-government discussion or negotiation. As Carlos mentioned, there's quite a lot of lobbying going on at the moment, right? In particular, those people in the upper region, they're trying to, through lobbying, to try to ensure that basically they get the appropriate reward. I wouldn't say, there is not just by the way, it's basically they have to go through that particular process. So in a way, under the current system, basically the way I see it is that it is better actually for government to maintain the direct channel to talk to the water resource authorities and let they actually coordinate the discussion amongst themselves. I would say that would perhaps be a simple or more direct way of handling the thing. Whether it would be changed or not, I don't know. Basically, they can easily change.
Because there's a profit-making company actually within.
Oh no, not in. There's a different perspective on that one. The company, you can see that company as a contractor of the Guangdong provinces. Okay, so there is the company who actually carry the work, and they get paid by the Guangdong provinces. As for Hong Kong, we're actually paying the money direct to the Guangdong Water Resource Authority. So basically, just like when you see water supplies department doing water mains repair, it can't be myself. I don't have that strength. So it's a contractor. That's the kind of thing. But of course, whether the matrix will be further expanded or not, basically it's very dynamic in a way, as Carlos has mentioned. They could easily. And then coming to the last point, grey water. I think the question you mentioned is actually putting up a good illustration. Yeah. All right, and I would actually draw another example in Japan. Well, in Japan, the people are talking about the incinerator, right? Incinerator, the incinerator in Hong Kong also attract quite a lot of negative views. But in that particular story, shown by the TV, they actually saw an incinerator in Japan. Actually, they turned it into an education center. Very beautiful setting. People understand the mechanisms. People understand what kind of pollution they are getting, and it's quite well accepted. And in fact, again, the woman in that particular area contribute to promote the thing and trying to turn the incinerator byproducts into something very useful for the community. Carlos wants to comment.
Okay, guess we have time for Carlos to comment. Basically, we're out of time, and I want to allow at least one more question. If it could be a brief comment from Carlos, a brief question, and a brief answer, then we're all good.
I think very briefly, supplemental the question on the saving water. Actually, there's been an increasing debate in China, in the peripheral in China, to establish a water market. Actually, the theory is that after allocations of water into different jurisdictions, if somehow they can save water and then they can sell it again in the water market, and other cities that need more water, they can buy it. So they have been discussing on the feasibility of water, so that individual jurisdiction, they have the incentive to save water. So this is possibly, if this kind of market develop, Hong Kong can possibly do it.
We are on the downstream, and certainly we don't want to run into business of selling water.
Yes, I have a very quick question. How does the price of Hong Kong water compare with the price of water in other developed countries? Because I've lived here for 13 years and I've never paid a cent on water. So obviously the government has been subsidizing my consumption of water, which I don't think is fair, because though I save water, I think I should be charged for the water I use every day.
I think I would like to grant you the title of Water Conservation Ambassador.
I never paid the same.
In fact, well, basically you managed to live within the 12 cubic meter per 4 months. All right, that's a very small amount.
No, it's not.
Well, not small. And in a way, well, the different perspective. In a way, well, basically, well, in Hong Kong, well, when you say the charge, well, I think the city, well, the exchange report has already set out, well, the comparison between different countries and different places. And I think by looking at that particular chart, you know that we are, well, not a high charge region, all right?
Why is that?
We must be among the probably the slowest, all right? In a way, well, basically, when you look at the community setting, well, I don't know whether it's perhaps the most accurate way of describing it. We do have some very low income family, and in a way, somehow, basically, and also arguably part of our rates also cover the water supply charges. But even if you add it in, we are still in a reasonable, affordable level in a way. So again, well, the city should actually debate on that particular point. Whether it would be something that we need to do in that particular aspect, well, to induce water conservation. The prime way is to induce water conservation rather than anything else. So, maybe Hong Kong is already a place, well, is I think probably one of the few places that have tariff systems, tariff structures. Some other place simply have the flat rate. So we have been doing the reasonable put on that aspect, but whether we need to do more or not. Actually, I need more of the views from the community.
I'm afraid we can't. Paul has already told me twice, time's up. So, I'm afraid we're going to have to draw a halt there. And I'd just like to close in thanking our three speakers, Beavis Mack from ACOM, L.T. Ma, the Director of the Water Services Department, and Professor Carlos Lowe from PolyU.
And I'd like to, on behalf of CitySpeak, I want to make sure that we thank our moderator who has organised today, who's helped us not only to moderate today, but he also helped us invite the speakers, Mike Hilburn, Civic Exchange. The next CitySpeak is June 19, and it will be on heritage. With heritage, always the question is, what can you and can you not do with a heritage building? So minimum intervention versus adaptive reuse. So it's very interesting, how far do we dare to go? Do we dare to build something on top of the roof of this building or not? So those are the questions. June 19, CitySpeak back here in the Fringe Club. In the meantime, I'd like to also tell you that we're going to put the presentations on our internet. Everybody will be happy with that, I'm sure. This discussion about water, of course, has not closed. The question is, how much should we pay? We have just kind of touched on it at the end. We're not paying enough in Hong Kong. LT was very nice to not say that very hard, because he can't. But we are not paying enough for our money. If you ask Bevis, how much dollar does it cost per cubic meter for all the technology that he's talked about, he hasn't shown us his prices yet. And he should, because he will show you that it's far more than we are currently paying. And we're not putting those technologies in place because we're paying. People up in the upper zone are not getting enough money for the water that they supply us with, because we're not paying enough money for the water that we use. So there is a